Hello, this is Sean with Counterpoint, a subset of Liberty and Death. And what we're going to be talking about today is Tucker Carlson and how his rhetoric, from a data-driven standpoint, has been matching up with anti-American voices found on social media. What we find is that there is a very significant overlap in phrases he uses that the Russians use, that Iranian outlets use, that the Chinese outlets use, that these little hidden, what do you call it, subterfuge cells of social engineering exist on X. So recent episodes, such as May 4th through May 5th, he calls it, the Iran war, a regime change effort, immoral, a war on a civilization, calls it bleeding America dry. Trump is a slave to Israel Netanyahu. It is the end of a global American empire. There's a heavy China angle here, saying that it's a conflict we can't win. And past Putin interviews point to NATO provocation in Ukraine skepticism. So he's aligned with Russian propaganda outlets before. Now, I want to make a claim here, and I think it's a well-founded claim, is that Russia is not allied with the West. Okay, just because they have a little bit more social conservative values doesn't mean that they're a geopolitical ally of the West or that they actually hold our values. For example, in Venezuela, Maduro was a raging socialist. He oppressed his people. He had a very totalitarian government, and he needed to be decapitated, fundamentally speaking, in a metaphorical way. But the people of Venezuela were very, very socially conservative. They didn't believe in LGBTQ plus divided by minus sign zero politics. They didn't believe in the transgender ideology. But that doesn't mean that the government of that country is our ally. It's the same thing with Russia. Okay, Iranian people might be against gay people, but conservatives don't want to throw gay people off a building. I think conservatives just kind of want to have gay people kind of like, all right, you can exist at the fringes, but we're not going to celebrate you. Okay, there's a very, very big difference between true tolerance of people who are at the fringes of society and celebrating them. So while Russia, from a cultural standpoint, might not celebrate that, they also exterminate people pretty casually for not agreeing with them. They are a totalitarian regime. They are not like the United States. So it's really dangerous when people like Tucker Carlson say things that are very, very similar to the Russian government, to the Iranian government, to the Chinese government. Okay, now here's some direct parallel comparisons between the Iranian press TV outlet. The U.S. war on Iran aimed at regime change. It's a war on civilization, immoral. And CGTN Press TV quoted Tucker verbatim in April 2026. They called it unprovoked aggression, endless greed, Zionist control. So what they're doing is they're replaying Tucker on their channel as their mouthpiece. They're not saying their own things. They are using Tucker to advance their own agenda. Keep in mind, this is a regime that kills its own people. They killed probably over 40,000 people in the streets, innocent people who were protesting the regime's inability to run an effective government. The real was in the toilet. It's worth effectively like 1 billion reals equals $1. And I think that's pretty conservative, actually. I think it might even be worse than that. So these people protest, the government kills them, and there's not a bleep or a blip. Apart from people who are conservative and noticing and pointing out the hypocrisy from the left, there are no people who are noticing this. Okay, Russia, RT Sputnik, which is an outlet in Russia, and calls this an forever war, and they're very anti-forever war. They want the multipolar world with Russia, China, and Iran. They're calling for that. The same thing that Tucker's calling for. That U.S. imperialism is bleeding resources. RT posts Tucker clips on Iran alongside Diet Coke shortage sarcasm and new West Asia order, in quotes, with Russia and Iran. This isn't looking good for Tucker. Now, China in the Global Times echoes predatory U.S. hegemony, okay? It echoes that statement that Tucker made, that this is predatory U.S. hegemony. Cites America First as chaotic, but amplifies Tucker's anti-intervention pivot, okay? Now, the verdict on Tucker's language versus these outlets. Some of these outlets are using his quotes directly to benefit them, and that really makes you wonder. Okay, one, if you're a person who believes in realpolitik, which, Kissinger was a very questionable human being, but I think he had a good sense on the world, is that you cannot have an international global order, a rules-based global order, without some sort of mechanism of power or military force to enforce those rules. That was the whole point of the United States creating all of these safe global shipping lines that would be enforced by their military. And that's how globalism and global trade kind of started in the 20th century, as it were. But the verdict is clear, guys. Tucker's language is in line with these outlets. Okay, there's legitimate skepticism for endless wars. And there's a constitutional question that needs to be asked. It's very prudent to ask those questions. But framing Iran's strikes as Israel's war or immoral regime change while adversaries mirrors their exact playbook. It just does. And, reason demands that we distinguish real threats, Iran's nuclear proxies, from isolationist drift. Okay? Now, let's talk about the Daily Wire host. I know this is going to piss a lot of people off. And, Ben Shapiro, he strongly defends the strikes on Iran's command and nuclear sites. He frames it as necessary versus an existential threat, debated concerns but supports action. Matt Walsh, skeptical, why was this necessary for America right now? Gaslighting on sudden 47-year war claims. Questions messaging and blind trust, but pro-American accountability angle, not from a Zionist conspiracy angle. He does not believe that this is an immoral war on civilization, for example, and he does not make any false flag 9/11 accusations. He is a skeptic that this was in America's best interest, which is a completely healthy and rational and reasonable point of view to have. And my wife shares that view, and I love her dearly, and she's smarter than me in a lot of ways, and, I'd be very, very surprised if she was wrong about this. But the way I see it, I am the counterpoint to this. I suggest that we wait and see what happens. Iran has been a threat. Maybe it was better for us to engage now on our terms versus a situation where China decides to take Taiwan, and while we're dealing with them, Iran decides to completely wipe Israel off the face of the map. And boom, one of our strongest allies in the region is gone. Whether you like it or not, they are a pragmatic ally at the very least for the United States. Michael Knowles, aligned with Shapiro on the cultural moral defense of strikes. But overall, between these three hosts, there is no meaningful overlap with adversarial language. Our enemies, as they are defined by Iran, China, and Russia, there's nothing there. There's no linguistic overlap. Global Times isn't quoting Ben Shapiro. Our enemies are not quoting these people. Okay? They critique from inside the tent. They call for limited government, facts first. But they reject that Israel controls everything trope. Israel's only 15 million people, okay? There's a lot of chaos in the world, and it's not caused by that small group of people. Not, by the way, the fact that you think that those 15 million people are all somehow aligned and on the same page is just stupid. It's there's really no difference between that line of thinking and the thinking of, well, that all white people are in the same boat and we all have the same agenda. It's not smart. And we need to talk about why this matters. And, the average comment section, I've been looking at these host comment sections, and there's a real righteous anger, a real evil. And it's not necessarily importing enemy narratives. How do I say this? Tucker and Candace's overlap, it's not treasonous, okay? It's a discernment failure that adversaries exploit. There's no other way to put it. You have to test everything. Hold fast to what is good. That is 1 Thessalonians 5:21. Reason plus evidence is really what we need right now. America first means defending threats and against threats. And Iran is one of those threats, whether you want to admit it or not. Look at how they treat their people. Israel does not treat their people this way. They are not the enemy. Iran is our enemy. Okay? The Iranian government is our enemy. The Iranian people, many of them are fine, wonderful people. Thank you, Trump. But the government is not. Okay? Now, anti-Israel, anti-Iran war searches spike with these clips, and the younger conservatives are watching. That is the problem. There's marketing gold, and we want to expose this wedge without canceling voices, and then rebuild with synthesis. Okay, so I really want everybody to think about this. Like, we have people in the conservative movement who are using very similar language to our enemies. That's all that needs to be said. It's just we need to gather together and do something about it.